sit, sit. This is Casper. And in this video, I'm going to go over some tips and tricks you can use if you have a dog that has separation anxiety. Now, he's a Shiba Inu, and he is probably the most friendly, confident Shiba Inu I've ever worked with. Unfortunately, he had some really crappy experiences in life. He got thrown out of a car when he was younger, and then the guardian got hooked up with somebody that thinks that they're a dog trainer that used a lot of aversive methods and had some really crazy, weird stuff going on. Down. Remember, passive training. Every time your dog does what you want, reward it. You can give it a pet or attention or whatever and mark it and say just the command word, not good down, just down. So separation anxiety is essentially a panic attack that the dog goes into because they have no practice of being alone. We love our dogs so much we let them come with us everywhere. I ask my clients a lot. Some people think I'm a little weird. Do you have an audience when you go to the bathroom? Most people are like, yep, because the dog follows us in there. So basically the dog goes from 100% access to you, and then we leave, we go to 0. There's no bigger gulf than 100 to 0. And so it's unnerving for the dog. We have to help them practice in between those two things. And I'm going to show you my little trick to doing that. But before we get to that, I want to talk about some of the things that are associated with separation anxiety. Sit. This is a really high value treat I'm not going to give you for each sit, but I'm going to reward you with a pet. Okay, and I remember to pet under the chin. So yeah, he's like, you got treats in your hand. What's your problem? The treats go right here. So dogs actually recognize us leaving before we actually leave when they have separation anxiety. We have a departure ritual. So we grab our, we sit in a certain spot, we put on a certain uniform, we're wearing a uniform. We grab our keys, we grab our sunglasses, we grab our iPhone, or we grab our wallet, we grab our bag, or whatever it is. So the dog recognizes this order of events always precedes the human abandoning me, and that's how they look at it. And so then I start seeing somebody doing something. If somebody starts doing something that I don't like, or that's associated with something I don't like, the more they do it, the more antagonistic I get about it. Kind of like winter. I hate winter. So I see the day gets darker, I start getting grumpy. So for the dog, it starts recognizing these triggers. Now, if I remember correctly, the guardian said that they put the dog in the kennel before they actually, now he is actually, the guardians here do a great job. What I recommend, and I think this is what the trainer was trying to say, he's like, you gotta put your life on hold. I don't want to tell you you gotta put your life on hold, but we don't want the dog to practice the bad thing while we're training the good thing. So if your dog really doesn't like being left alone, the more you leave them at home in the kennel, the more they're practicing panicking. So the guardian here is doing what I normally would advise, taking your dog to daycare those days you're going to be gone. So that way he doesn't recognize this as a negative. Now I went through a kennel training exercise off camera, and if you forget how to do those, let me know. If you're looking for one, go to dogonproblems.com, click on dog training tips, and search in kennel training, and you'll see a whole bunch of videos that'll show you how to do it. So we want to make sure that he understands that when we come home, he's not going to be able to bust out of the kennel. The exercise involves the dog staying in the kennel with the door wide open, waiting for a release word. Again, developing a little self-control and some impulse control. So basically, to desensitize the dog, what you want to do is you want to pick up all of, you want to recreate all of the things that are associated with your departure ritual, independent of you leaving. So if you put a uniform on, get up on the weekend, put your uniform on, and then sit down and watch some TV. Or get up and pick up your keys. The dog is excited, and then you put the keys back down and sit down and have breakfast. You grab your sunglasses, walk towards the door, and you get to the door, and then you turn around and walk away. The dog's like, well, I wasn't in the kennel. Normally I'm in the kennel, and he's walking. So we're kind of like, I don't say messing with their head. It's desensitizing is technically what we're doing. And so we want the dog to, when we pick up the keys, they no longer react. When we, and at first we're doing these triggers individually, then we're gonna start doing them in concert with a couple things together. And eventually we get to the part where we do the whole departure ritual, and then you actually go to the door, and at some point you actually would open the door and close it, walk out, close the door, wait 1 second, then turn around and come back inside. Now I'm going to talk about how you're going to pick that up after we get done training the dog to stay. And that's what I usually typically use to help a dog practice being alone. If I get up and go get a drink of water, he's going to follow me. If I go to the bathroom, he follows me. Go to the door, he follows me. Taylor, my apprentice, was here. She got up to walk over the door, and he followed and barked at her. Well, I didn't give her permission to move over there. So I think he thinks he's a security dog. So we talked about things off camera that will help alleviate that stress. Yes, you're a little bit stressed out, you and me both, and your dad. We all work too much. All right, so basically once we, in order to help the dog practice being alone, we need something in between 100 and 0. And I find that the sit is a wonderful way to do that. So what we're going to do is I'm going to show you in this now, I'm going to show you how to teach your dog to stay for the 3 Ds: duration, distance, then distraction. Most people try to do them all at the same time, which makes it 3 times as hard. Down. you're in the perfect position to do this. I gotta talk a little bit more and then we'll get to practicing. You're getting a copious amount of treats, I promise. So we're gonna first teach the dog to stay for duration until the dog can achieve 3 to 5 minutes consistently. That means 5 times you can ask the dog to stay for 3 minutes before you start moving any distance away. And I tell people this ad nauseum, and then I ask him a week later how it's going. Oh, it's pretty good. He does great, except for when I get to 10 feet away. I'm like, that's why we don't move away yet until we get to 3 minutes. So don't push too far too fast. When it comes to training your dog to stay, you need to build success on top of success. If the dog moves away, that's what we call an auto release, and that basically is the opposite of a stay. All right, so I have a handful of treats here, and you want to have more treats than you actually plan on practicing. I'm going to do 2, 4, 6, and 8, and then I'm going to give him a release. Now, I forgot to ask the guardian off camera what he wants to use as a release word, so I'm just going to use the word release. I never like to use the word okay because that's the top 50 U.S. word, and I know of a couple of dogs have been killed because they're standing on Dodge Street or a busy street and having a conversation. One person says okay, and the dog jumps so fast, gets clipped by a car. Release, break, freedom, parole, these are words we don't use very often. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to, first of all, give him a hand signal. So I want to have, and if the dog wants to stay in a sit, that's fine. If he's starting a sit and he goes to a down, try to start in a down. It doesn't matter if he moves from a sit, up, down, as long as they're staying in the area. He just can't move away. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say stay, halfway distance between me and the dog. Then I pull my arm back and I count 1, 2 in my brain. And I'm going to deliver the treat with both hands to create that hand signal. And so I want to think these as cycles. I would normally be treating him, but he's already distracted and he's fine, which is I'm just going to milk it and go a little bit longer. Stay. Remember, you always give the treat first and they hear the command word first. I want you to think of this as cycles or bookends. So I'm going to do another one. Stay to start it. 1, 2. Stay to stop it. And then I'm going to do to 4. Stay. Stay. Stay to start it again. Stay. And then to let him know we're done with the exercise, I'm going to throw a treat over there and say release when he licks it up. Now I just did 3 there. You can do 5, 6, 10, whatever you want to do. Always make sure that the last one is a positive one, is a good one. So if you start pushing too far and you start getting frustrated, or you think the dog's getting frustrated, the dog will pick up on your frustration and it will not want to repeat the exercise. Positive reinforcement, positive dog training requires a positive attitude from the handler as well as the dog. So basically, what we're going to do is predetermine. Let's say I'm going to do 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. I would have, that's 5 stays. I'm going to have about 7 or 8 treats in my hand. Because if he auto releases, I might have to repeat a step or something like that. I always want to be able to have at least one to do the release. Now, at first it's going to be 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, or whatever the intervals are. And eventually you're going to go longer, longer, longer. Always count in your head. Because if you, when your dog auto releases, if let's say the dog auto releases at 87 seconds, sit, down. Well, that's a sit again. If I haven't been counting, I don't know where to back up. If he auto releases, we always want to back up about 5 seconds previous to where he auto released and then practice there again a couple more times to build up that strength of that stay at that duration. And also don't stare at him in the eye the whole time. So stay to start. Whoops, I did it backwards. I did the second one first. Let's try that again. So stay to start it. I look around. Stay. You can make eye contact. Just don't, if you lock the eyes the whole time, the first time you look away, he'll get up and auto release. So, let me see, and like I said, keep it a positive. So, and keep a little journal somewhere because there's 2 people in the house, and so one person might be at a certain threshold, and then you didn't realize they practiced and got you to a whole minute longer. Also, don't always go just to the next interval. So let's say I'm at a minute and a half. I don't want to only do 1.5 minutes. I'll do like maybe 2 minute and a halves, and then I might do like a 15-second one. So keep it kind of interesting, kind of like if you work out, you don't do the same workout every time. You got to vary it up a little bit. And also, don't do it just here. Dogs do not generalize well. They need to do things in different capacities in different locations. So do it here, do it there, do it over there, do it in the bedroom, outside. But don't do it with any distractions. So nobody should be eating. There's not any craziness. If the activity outside, have the windows closed. And if he's going to be distracted, wait and don't do it then. Do it at a different time. All right, so once we get to the point where, and I'm going to pantomime, and he's not going to know this, so we're going to use this to represent the dog bed. So let's say that now I've gotten up to 5 minutes, and that's what I usually like to get, but 3 minutes is fine as well. So, so now I'm going to start incorporating distance. Oh, one last little thing. A lot of people, when I say stay, you hold up your hand to start it. they go like this. It's too far in his face. I like to keep it halfway distance between me and the dog. All right, so now the dog already understands the concept of staying. So I'm gonna say stay, take one step back, count 1, 2, come back, deliver the treat and say stay. And that ended that cycle. And then I either release or I start another stay cycle again. Now the reason we do it twice is eventually we're gonna stay, then release, and release becomes the reward. But when we're practicing, we might practice 5, 10, 15 times in a row. We don't want to release them each time, so that's why we do a start and stop. Eventually, you're just going to say stay and then release. But right now, it's stay to start the stay to deliver the treat where you're stopping it. When I do it, I hold my signal hand about where my elbow is, so the treat goes in the dog's mouth first. You should feel a little wetness on your lips, then you say the command word. All right, so I start out with just one step backwards. I count to 2, come back and deliver it. And I might do a couple of those, and then I go to 2 steps, and I count to 4. Now, this is just my arbitrary starting point. I might change it up, but you go at the dog's pace and what the dog can do. It's not what we want, it's what the dog is practiced and ready to go for. Let's say that eventually, and this is not to scale, but let's say that there's a wall that comes to about here. And so there's a wall here. So dog's here, I say stay. I don't start doing this until I get to at least 15 feet away. So let's say that this is 15 feet past the wall. So 14, 15. The wall is right here. So I go out of sight for 1 second, and then I turn around, come back, stay, and deliver that treat. So the first time you go out of sight, that's a big step. So it's easy for a dog to come around. Now you have a security camera, so you might want to have your iPad or something looking at it. So maybe you do it where you have him stay here, you walk in the bedroom there. Just do it in different parts of your house where you can move out of sight. That's why we want to break the eye contact. Eventually we're going to do the stay, and that's the whole point of this exercise. We put him in stay, and you go do other things. So you want to keep on practicing this until you get to the point where he can stay consistently. And a lot of times what we like to do is have 2 or 3 successes before we add an extra couple seconds or an extra foot or 2. But again, it's going to be, I don't want to be too aloof, but I want to give you a lot of flexibility because it's based on the dog. But basically, eventually, then next time you're 2 seconds out of stay, then 3 seconds, 4 seconds. Now the maximum you ever will have to go is 2 hours. I don't think you're gonna have to go to 2 hours. That's the max for any dog. Once a dog can achieve 2 hours, they can achieve it beyond that. So basically, once we get to the point where the dog can stay for up to 5 minutes, then we're gonna start, well, basically out of sight, we're gonna start using that. So, and you could probably do it, you gotta be at least 20, 15 feet away. I guess you could probably do it a little earlier. So let's say that I'm sitting here watching TV and I wanna go get myself a Red Bull. So I say stay, go to the kitchen, get my Red Bull, come back, release. So what we're going to do is we're going to have him practice being alone. Now right now this is one great room, so he can still see me all the way to the fridge. So I'm not going out of line of sight, but normally he doesn't do that. He follows the guardian everywhere he goes or wherever she goes. And so I'm practicing being clingy, and I don't have any practice being alone. So we're not going to put them on a stay when we leave. This is just to help them introduce that concept and help them practice and getting better at it. Somewhere between 100 and 0 with us home. Crash. Sorry, that's a word I like to use. So eventually you get to the point where, and make sure that you're keeping it very progressive. At first, like just go get a drink of water, come back. Then eventually, the bathroom, that might be a 3-minute visit. That's a lot longer than 10 seconds. So at first, maybe it's to go get a glass of water, or a Red Bull. Then it's to pour myself a glass of water. Then it's to make myself a mixed drink. Then it's to make my mixed drink and our lovely lady gets a mixed drink. And then maybe I make a sandwich. And so it's not always just making stuff. Maybe it's going and getting my keys, grabbing my phone, or whatever it is. But you're putting the dog into a stay, going and doing, accomplishing your mission, coming back, and then releasing him in a progressively longer and longer period of time. Now, once you get to the point where you can actually put him in a stay in your bedroom and come out here and spend at least a half an hour watching TV with him back there, or you can do it the other way around if you want to use the security. I'm sure you probably move that in different locations. So again, we want to practice where he can't see you, but he can hear you. So now we've desensitized the triggers and we've built up his confidence and his ability to stay. He's about to go to sleep. I love it when dogs have their head up and they go to sleep. So the next stage is what I referenced earlier. Now we're actually going to start leaving. Now we're not going to put the dog into a stay when we leave. We're just going to, and when you come and go, the guardian here doesn't do that, but a lot of guardians will make a big deal when they leave or come. Don't do that. We want to make it a non-production. So now, independent of the triggers, what we're going to do, we're after the dog's gotten to the point where it can achieve that half an hour for the TV show, we get up, go outside, close the door, open the door, close the door. As soon as it closes, wait 1 second, then turn around, come back in, and sit down, and watch TV. The next time we're going to leave for maybe 2 seconds, then 5 seconds, then 10 seconds. Now, the problem is most people get to is once they get to the point where like 2 minutes, like, oh, let's just go get a real quick coffee. We have to have the dog practice being calm. So great thing about having a security camera, you can watch him outside. Well, we make it very progressive. If you go from 2 minutes to 10 minutes and he starts panicking at 9 minutes, now he spent 1.5 minutes panicking. And that's the opposite of what we're looking for. So your Wi-Fi should be good enough. Take your tablet out there, watch TV. I had one client that actually bought a little secondhand chair and put it outside there. They were in an apartment complex in California. And they just go out there and sit down this like a lazy boy. It was a lawn chair that reclined. And the neighbor's like, you're weird. But what we did was we practiced. And that way, if the dog starts to panic, we can come back in right away. Now, here's the caveat to that. If the dog panics, you come back in right away. The dog starts to think, if it happens enough times in a row, that panic causes my human to come back. So if that's the case, recognize where your duration was and use stop timers or count or whatever it is, but then you need to go back and practice like 10, 15 seconds before that and build success on top of success. Now, he did a little, we could show you, but he did a little destruction around the door. A lot of people take this personal, or the dog has accidents. We call it accidents. It's not accidents. The dog's got so worked up, it lost control of its bowels. If you have a friend who got so scared, they peed their pants, you'd never make fun of them. Well, if they're a good friend, you'd make fun of them a lot. But for somebody normally, an office worker or whatever, you would never even mention that in an encounter because they feel so bad and embarrassed about it. So the dog has an accident because it lost control of its bowels. It was so scared it peed its pants. You should never punish a dog. Well, you should never punish a dog for having an accident, regardless whether you're potty training or anything else. But definitely don't do it because the dog already feels so bad that it lost control of its bowels. Now, he destroyed a little bit of the area, the woodwork around the door, which is very common. What the dog's trying to do is come and find you. Now, in some cases, I find the dogs doing this because they're so insecure they don't know how to process being alone. In some situations, I find an addendum to that is the dog thinks not only that, but also my humans think that I'm in charge of, or I think I'm in charge of my humans. And when my humans go out without me, I can't protect them. So I have to go bust through the door to go find them and keep them, because a border collie might come and take advantage of them. So the dog kind of is in this panic state, and that's amplifying. It's called trigger stacking. We put one bad thing on top of another. It's a dog version of having a bad day. So now I've not practiced being alone. My guardian's left. I think I have to protect my guardians, and the door's in my way. And, so the idea, that's why we spent so much time off camera talking about all these other little things to make sure you're not reinforcing that the dog thinks it's in charge of you. But this is a great energy. This is what we'd like to see, where when we leave, this is what the dog does. It sits on the ground and lays down on the ground. Now, how long you leave, again, that 2-hour mark, once you can achieve 2 hours, you should be able to leave beyond that. Now, I would probably continue to use your kennel like we talked about in the short term. We don't want to, if he destroys, come. If he chews on a power cord, he can electrocute himself. He could he'd catch himself in with a screw or something chewing on the door. So we don't use the kennel to keep him safe. But the ultimate goal would be to have him free. And that's why we start leaving. We sit right outside so we can watch him on the security camera and progressively longer and longer periods of time. Now you can also do things like giving him a bully stick or things like that. And if your dog will eat or chew on something, that's a huge, great, big positive sign. When a dog is separation, you can leave a T-bone steak here, they won't touch it. Because the cortisol is in their blood will stop all non-essential bodily functions, including digestion. So that's a good indicator, is to leave your dog a little bit of a snack. And if you come back and the dog eats the snack, that's a good indicator your dog is not so over threshold, which is what we call it, that it can't process things. I'm trying to think, is there anything else? Do you have any other questions about that? This is pretty standard. Let's come over back here. We need good camera presence for you, buddy. You're such a handsome fella. Sit. Well, this good-looking guy is Casper. I'm David. Sit. These are some tips and tricks you can use on how to desensitize your dog from the triggers associated with you leaving and help them learn to stay so you practice being alone to defeat separation anxiety.